First, a clarification. I hate VTubers in the same way I hate cauliflower. I find it distasteful and become agitated at the mere scent of it, but its existence does not offend my very being, nor do I judge anyone else for consuming it. If you like VTubers, that's perfectly fine. There's an indigenous tribe in northern Brazil that pierce their chins and shove wooden plugs into them, making them all look like they were impaled with PVC pipe, and I sincerely wish those people the best, but it's not for me. But why, everyone incessantly asks me? The overarching reason is that VTubers represent to me an unholy fusion of waifuism, parasocial live streaming culture, and corporate influence. Let's start with that middle one, because doing things in order is overrated. So the first point on the agenda today is that I don't like live streaming in general. I don't like watching it, I don't like the culture surrounding it, I just don't like it. But why? For starters, it's an extension of the reaction-based content, as much as fans of streaming might want to deny that. The older I get, the more I realize how little I value other people's opinions on basically anything, and reaction-based content is entirely founded on giving a shit what someone else is doing. For me, the purest media consumption is sitting in a chair with a book and reading in a tiny little corner, free from the influence of everything else around you. A direct, one-on-one exchange of ideas between author and reader, creator and consumer. I already touched upon this in my video about why I don't like movie theaters. I dislike them for the exact same reason. Crowds influence your reactions to content. The cheers and boos and cries of other people subtly change your perception of a work of fiction. All it takes is a few people finding a joke to be cringy, and all of a sudden you start feeling embarrassed for having heard it, even if in isolation you might not have had a strong reaction to it, or maybe even would have liked it. If you've ever had a theater experience where someone was cracking a joke during a dramatic scene or cheapening a romantic resolution by having an over-the-top reaction to it, you'll know what I mean. These sorts of things can permanently damage your relationship with the work. Let me tell you a story. I went to watch Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 in theaters, and at the end of the film, when Voldemort has claimed the Elder Wand from Dumbledore's grave and the screen cuts to black, one particularly boisterous theatergoer shouted, "Wait, that's it?" seemingly unaware that he was viewing only part 1 of a duology. I can no longer watch the end of that movie without remembering said incident, and I chuckle every time thinking about it, which is not the intended emotional experience the scene wants to convey. It has been poisoned for me, and while it's a very minor thing, when you spread that sort of thing over so many different works and so many different contexts, these influences add up. Live streaming does the same thing to everything it touches, from the streamer to the chat. Every reaction blurs into a homogeneous, jokey pastiche. Nothing is taken seriously. Everything on screen is subject to the exact same judgment of the common rabble. I don't find it funny, I find it sad, and a bit of an insult to the creators who made the content in the first place. But you might argue, okay, well that's only narrative-based stuff, right? Not every game a streamer plays is going to be like that. A lot of it is just multiplayer shenanigans. What's wrong with that? There's no narrative integrity to uphold there, right? Sure, but you've stumbled into another major issue for me. In a multiplayer setting, the only experience I care about is my own. An occasional funny clip or moment, sure, I'll crack a laugh, but is that really worth sitting through a 6-hour live stream to get a few comedic or epic highlights? You know, it's often said that your average baseball game, despite lasting 2 hours, contains only about 8 minutes of tension or excitement. I think your average live stream probably falls into the same category, and I simply value my time more than that. Life is short. I'll never be able to do all the things I want to. Why the fuck would I waste my precious seconds on this material plane watching someone else play a video game? That's time I could be playing a video game. In the same time span as a live stream, I could get halfway through a game, or all the way through a book, or watch 3 entire films. Live streaming is a black hole of attention, siphoning your time away like a vampire and giving you nothing but a few chuckles in return. The only live streams I tend to watch are things that actively provide something other than gameplay footage with someone's stupid face over it, like a developer Q&A, or a speedrun explanation, or some kind of tangible, interesting information that isn't just reacting to what I can see with my own damn eyes. But you'll say, we're not here for the games, we're here for the personalities, the banter. So let's talk about how VTubers make me uncomfortable. Parasocial attachment is becoming a serious issue in the online world. The familiarity you feel to your average YouTubers, podcasters, and yes, even and especially live streamers, is entirely one-sided and artificial. You know so much about them, but they know nothing about you, and probably don't care to. For someone with any substantial audience, they're not even physically capable of caring about you beyond the metric you represent. There's neither the time in the day nor space in the brain to become intimately familiar with thousands of strangers, even if they had the desire to. For most of us with normal functioning brains and decent maturity levels, this isn't really a problem. Just as we can separate fiction from reality, we know that the people on the other side of the screen are not really our friends. But VTubers start encroaching upon purposefully uncomfortable territory, in my opinion, by incorporating elements of waifuism. You see, parasocial relationships with fictional characters are fine. In fact, that's kind of the point, to grow emotionally invested in them. You can imagine or act upon whatever you want because there's no real person whose privacy or sanctity is being invaded. When live streamers adopt the facsimiles of fictional personas, very specifically and undeniably designed from the ground up to invoke this same kind of attachment, the lines become blurred. You don't have that obvious physical reminder of their literal personhood, and that's when boundaries are more easily and frequently crossed. It's like idol culture, but even more intimate because you get to watch them 20 plus hours a week, a never-ending supply of dopamine to hit those emotional connection receptors. Maybe you can keep a healthy divide, but not everyone can. Some people are psychologically predisposed to these kinds of unhealthy fixations, either because of circumstances or neurology. And the VTuber scene, intentionally or not, kind of preys upon these people, and they have every financial incentive to do so. It's not necessarily their fault. I'm not blaming creators for the actions of their fans. Everybody is ultimately responsible for their own lives, but it's just not a scene I find appealing for that reason. I get enough exposure to lonely, emotionally maladjusted people from my other interests. I don't need this too. And finally, there's something hollow and corporate about the entire endeavor. Just design an anime girl with a quirky personality and some kind of animal trait, and boom, instant appeal, instant audience. Who needs to actually be interesting when you can cosplay as an interesting character on the internet? Is this me being bitter that I haven't attained cult niche internet micro-celebrity status despite a decade of consistent and, if I may say so, positively received content creation, the vast majority of which was substantially more effort than playing a video game in front of a green screen? Yes it is, and maybe that's not fair, but these are my feelings, and I can't help them. I look at VTubers and I see easy, shallow, factory-made products literally designed to appeal and astroturfed to success through the talent agencies that promote them. But you might say, but Zeke, there's hundreds and hundreds of failed VTubers, even from said agencies. It's not instant success. But you've only stumbled into yet another reason I dislike them. It's an alluring prospect to make a living this way, having an online following, playing video games for a living. That was true even before VTubers. But it's another facet of the online space I find increasingly depressing. The fact that capitalism has failed my generation, and the generation beneath mine, is a topic far beyond the scope of this video. But it must be said that the fact that young people see their only shot at fulfillment and success being making it big online through TikTok or OnlyFans or Twitch is just a sad state of affairs. And VTubers are particularly egregious because they seemingly remove many perceived barriers. You don't have to be physically attractive. You don't have to be an interesting person or live an interesting life. Just play the character you invented and it'll be fine. That's the dream. But just like becoming a movie star or winning the lottery, for most who try it, it will only end in disappointment, failure, and wasted time and money. Are VTubers particularly unique in that regard? No, of course not. But my distaste for VTubers is a death of 1,000 cuts, a plethora of smaller issues that add up to a scene that I just can't appreciate on any level. They're not for me. They stand as emblematic of so much of what I find wrong about our modern world, about our society. Maybe you can ignore all of that. Maybe you're in the VTuber fandom and loving it. And you know what? I'm happy for you. Really, I mean it. But just as I respect your feelings, please respect mine. I might make my little jabs here and there, but truthfully, I don't care what you do with your time. I just think shitting on something I don't like is funny, and if you like VTubers, maybe you find me being irrationally angry at something you love to be funny as well. Just imagine me as Squidward looking out the window. Everybody wins. Zeke Freak out. Ciao ciao for now.